Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to Steam Flow. Today we're taking an early look at Valor Mortis, a first-person Soulslike set during the French Revolution, currently in its October 2025 pre-alpha playtest. The full release is planned for 2026 at some point, we don't have an exact date. But I got my hands on this demo and I wanted to see how it holds up on the Steam Deck, and surprisingly it's running a lot better than I expected for an Unreal Engine title at this stage. Without further ado, let's get into it. Valor Mortis drops you into a dark, gritty version of revolutionary France. Imagine Bloodborne with Napoleonic uniforms and a touch of BioShock thrown in. There's horror, mystery, and apparently Napoleon is whispering in your head. You've got stamina-based combat, parries, posture breaks, and even a bit of a ranged gunplay with the revolver. The game is very early, rough around the edges, but already showing some promising atmosphere and world building. Now let's talk performance. In terms of actual settings, there's not much to tweak in the demo. We've only got single graphics preset and a few upscalers to choose from. Initially, the deck here is running on the low preset with FSR set to balanced and frame generation is off. The game does have built-in frame generation with FSR, but I've turned that off. All the other options are set to low or either off. Right away, we're hovering around 34-36 FPS, which is not bad at all, but you will notice occasional dips to 28-29 in a bit of a heavy combat, and we can also drop even below 20 when new areas are loading. I guess this is some shader compilation or streaming behavior happening here. There is some stuttering going on sometimes, but most of the time you will be playing at around 30 or more than 30 FPS. Now FSR works, but it's not pretty. We can definitely see the shimmering effect that FSR has, especially in vegetation and distant objects when you move. So the next step was to switch over to TSR. This is Unreal Engine's built-in temporal scaler, and a TSR at 65% resolution scale, which is somewhere between balanced and quality. The shimmering disappears completely and the game actually feels smoother. We're still in that 30-36 FPS range, but it's a lot more stable and visually cleaner. And you could probably cap the game at 30 FPS for super consistent pacing, but I did not cap it at all. I left it unlocked, and for an alpha demo this is really impressive. I think it bodes well for the final release. If they can keep this level of performance at launch throughout the entire game, this is going to be a great title to play on the Steam Deck. I also tried Intel XeSS, and surprisingly this is the first time I see this, but XeSS also has that similar shimmer effect to FSR and some kind of flickering happening, especially at longer distance when I check lower resolution stuff like vegetation, bushes and everything like that. So it's not as clean as TSR. TSR clearly wins in this game. I would choose TSR over XeSS or FSR any day. I also tried Lossless Scaling and that did not go well at all. It's the most input lag I've ever seen on a title I've tested with Lossless Scaling frame gen. I'm not sure what's happening here. I've tested other games that run at 30 FPS and I've used Lossless Scaling frame generation with them and they were not as bad as this. This one is unplayable. Severe input lag, heavy artifacting, massive stuttering. It made it completely unplayable. It feels like I'm walking through mud trying to play this, and for some reason even turning it off left some weird side effects, so I had to completely restart my Steam Deck and turn off Lossless Scaling. Right now maybe it's because it's an alpha demo. Lossless Scaling is not an option for this game. Performance aside, Valor Mortis feels surprisingly solid for an early build. Combat is very nice. You've got the typical stamina management, you have parries that fully negate damage, critical hits when you break enemy posture and all of that. The systems are classic Souls-like, but the presentation gives it a different flavor. The lighting is moody, there's fog all around. It's just giving me some Bloodborne vibes with the revolver, and you've got a fire transmutation ability later in the demo that lets you burn through obstacles, which is very BioShock-like. In fact, the actual movement of the hands and everything really reminds me of BioShock. I would not be surprised if some people who did work on BioShock Infinite also worked on this game. The atmosphere is dark, tense, and occasionally genuinely creepy and even scary. Some of the enemies are absolutely horrific, but overall it's a really nicely put together package. Now on to battery life and thermals. On the Steam Deck OLED, battery life came at around 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's pretty standard nowadays for a modern Unreal Engine 5 title at these settings. Maybe if we cap it to 30 FPS, you could stretch that to about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Thermals stayed around 75 degrees with the fan spinning at about 80%, so You definitely hear it ramp up in heavier scenes if you're playing without headphones, but overall it's pretty stable. Now onto controls and interface. Full controller support is already implemented, which is great. You can adjust stick dead zone, sensitivity, toggle vibration. However, there is no button remapping. I don't think there will be any button remapping. However, you do have a couple of different presets that you can choose from, so while you cannot fully customize it, there are definitely some options for you to experiment with. In terms of other options, such as accessibility and anything like that, we have nothing present. They may be added later in the game before release, but I think this demo still feels polished enough to play comfortably on the deck. I did not experience any crashes during testing, which is a good sign, but there are definitely loading stutters and brief 5 FPS dips when new areas stream in. Shader caching will probably help later, and Unreal Titans often smooth out closer to release. Otherwise, the demo is stable and fully playable. So in conclusion, for a pre-alpha Unreal Engine 5 build, it's running surprisingly well, holding 30 FPS with stable frame pacing, and TSR clearly provides the best balance of visuals and stability, while FSR and XeSS both introduce flickering. Battery life and temperatures are within normal Steam Deck ranges. There's a lot of optimization to be done, but if the final release can hold this level of performance, I think Valor Mortis could be one of those moody, mid-budget Soulslikes that actually feel great on the Steam Deck. If you enjoyed this early look, hit the like button. It really helps the channel. And let me know in the comments if you're trying the demo or if this one is on your radar for 2026. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.